More rotation. What are Abyssian losing? So I think Abyss are losing a lot. Um, like, not as many sheer good cards as that, but real role players. So, Sphere of Darkness is. I think this is in basically every Abyssian deck. I think when you play Abyss, you have three cards. You have three copies of this in your deck. Full stop. It does everything. It kills small creatures, helps with chip damage, builds up creep synergy, chips off artifacts, takes away mana tiles, and just helps the consistency of your deck for basically no cost. Amazing. Lurking Fear, we'll come back to this one. I am very sad about losing Lurking Fear. Actually, let's go to it now. What if I forget? So, I should have a Lurking Fear deck lying around. Here's one. This is Lurking Fear Maeve, I think. Yeah. I don't know if I have a Lilith one kicking around. No. Let's go with this. I mean, the Lilith and Maeve versions are kind of similar. I just wanted to try Maeve in the list. So the basic idea of Lurking Fear, for those unfamiliar, you play 3 copies of Lurking Fear itself, and then you play a curve entirely of Deathrattle minions, going on up to the big ones. The idea of this deck, at least the way I play it, it's kind of like a tempo deck. It's much slower than most tempo decks, but the idea is you're going to have very explosive turns in the mid to late game by playing like 2 Klaxons in one turn, or a Reaper and a Vorpal Reaver or something, thanks to the Lurking Fear discounts, and be able to draw a ton of cards using Vellum Scry or Rite of the Undervault, which are then themselves all these discounted creatures. And all your creatures get value because they're all Dying Wish minions, so your deck is just full of these sticky, like, kind of crappy, hard to remove, annoying value creatures. And it sucks against aggro because so many of your slots are dedicated to things like Sarlacc and Lurking Fear, which don't really meaningfully affect the board. You don't have that much room for healing. You don't have that much room for just straight up defense or removal. But it's amazing against control. At least until they draw EMP. Because this deck basically laughs at removal. Like, they dispel the first thing and you're like, that's fine, I have another 20 dispel targets in my deck. Sphere feels pretty bad. And Horus Vita says, all the easy creep tiles for my Nethermeld are just gone. No ooze, no Sphere. Yeah, Nethermeld takes a big hit here, doesn't it? Hopefully they'll put some more creep generators in the new set, because they must be cognizant of the fact that Cassiva's basically losing all her cards. Because Shimzar was where they introduced the creep nerf. For those unaware, Shadow Creep tiles used to deal 1 damage per tile in play. Of yours. It didn't count your opponents. So your Shadow Nova would do 4 damage to a thing, or maybe 6 if you got a couple of Cassiva pings off. And then your second Shadow Nova would do like 8 to 10 damage. And so you could just use them to fireball your opponent, basically. They realized that was restrictive on design space and changed it to just doing 1 damage when the expansion came out, when Shimzar came out, and obviously printed a bunch of additional creep cards in Shimzar to make up for that. So hopefully the next set will contain a bunch of stuff that makes up for the removal of them, because Cassiva's already not that popular right now, and this makes it way worse. Although, Fran Trode in chat there did send me a pretty nice looking Cassiva midrange list earlier that isn't too affected by the changes. At least Munch looks promising. That's true, yeah, Munch. So Munch is what? Deal damage and gain life to a minion equal to the number of creep tiles in play, or the health of the minion, whichever smaller. So if you have 6 creep tiles and you munch a 3/3, you gain 3 life. Which is slightly confusing, but yeah, that's pretty powerful for like a slow creep deck. So hopefully there are a couple of good new creep generators. I mean, it might just be time to go back to Abyssal Crawler, because that card puts a lot of creep out in a short space of time. Maybe they're just going to give us old creep back. I hope they don't do that. I like the design space of the newer cards. But back to this list, I have absolutely, like, the deck is definitely divided between games where you draw Lurking Fear, games where you draw 2 Lurking Fear, and games where you draw 0. And like, the more Lurking Fears you draw, the better it gets, by far, because those cost reductions are just so important. They make your card draw better, they make your tempo turns better, they make you able to defend yourself more. They do everything. So without these, the deck gets way worse. Way worse. And I don't really know what that does to the archetype outside of just killing it. It's possible we get some more Dying Wish synergy. There's still some. We get Necromata to draw cards with. We obviously have Maeve to trigger Dying Wishes, which is nice with a couple of particular cards. It's nice with Sarlacc. It's nice with Desolator. This is Un7, which is not a particularly powerful card. Yeah, there isn't really anything that can replace it. So I think for now, unless we get more support in the new set or a couple of sets after, Lurking Fear is basically dead. But hopefully it'll be a thing in Wild in the future. What else do we lose? Ooze. Someone mentioned Ooze. Ooze is another big deal. Ooze is one of the better 2-drops. Even with Thunderhorn, the card is still pretty solid. Obviously, if they have a Thunderhorn, it sucks, but it's good enough outside of that that you still want it. Blood Baronet. I've lost a couple of games to this, but I tend to otherwise forget it exists. Ditto Void Steel. I played this in Highlander, it's good. Klaxon, Obliterate. Like, basically all the creep finishers and creep tools for control cast are gone. So we're going to have to look to new finishers, new game plans for Cassiva. I mean, fortunately, you can play Thunderhorn mid-range, you can play, like, I don't know, Arcanist, Cassiva, I suppose. You can play whatever new creep toys they give us, plus Abyssal Crawler, so hopefully we can get something out of it, but it's going to be a little difficult. I hope they pick some epic name for Wild. Yeah, me too. Although it's a pain in the ass having all these different names for like the same thing.